Where is the conflict likely to go next? Let's talk to the defense analyst, Alex Alfirraz Scheers. Alex, we should perhaps begin by taking stock. President Trump saying a whole civilization will die tonight if Iran doesn't make a deal to end this conflict. What do you think that means?
I think what it demonstrates is that the President of the United States is running out of options. I think he's boxed himself in. He's made a number of strategic errors during the course of this conflict, and most notably the several ultimatums that he's issued. He's not come good on any one of those ultimata, and that goes to show that actually these threats might not be credible at all, and by dint of that, his credibility is also dwindling. So these threats, it's hard to tell whether he will actually go through with this, because there's been a lot of talk about him wanting to find a political off-ramp. It's just a final attempt, I think, for him to find a way out, really.
Iran has responded, of course. Iran's Revolutionary Guards threatening to expand attacks beyond the region if the United States continues to target civilian infrastructure. What military capability does Iran still have, do we think?
So, prior to the war beginning, there were something like 3,000 intermediate-range ballistic missiles and short-range ballistic missiles that Iran had in its arsenal. I think that number has gone down quite significantly. So the ballistic missile threat is kind of no longer as acute as it was in the beginning of the war. What Iran does have and can leverage very effectively are its drone capabilities. It has thousands, maybe tens of thousands of these drones, and those drones are very hard to intercept, especially if they're deployed in a swarm formation. So we're going to see Iran probably ramp up its drone attacks in places like the Gulf on critical national infrastructure, which would have incredibly devastating implications going forward.
And beyond the Gulf?
The drones don't have long-range capabilities, but what Iran does have is a network of subversive and asymmetric capabilities that operate all across the world, including in Europe and in North America. So it could seek to activate some of those asymmetric capabilities. These are cells, essentially. But of course, you know, some of these ballistic missiles, whilst their ballistic missile capabilities have been very heavily degraded, we saw one get launched at Diego Garcia, which is in the Indian Ocean, which is some 4,000 kilometers away. Now, that range is the range that it would take to hit targets in Europe, for example. Now, of course, whether Iran could credibly actually strike targets in Europe is anybody's guess, but it certainly signaled the ability to do so, and that should be considered as a genuine risk and a genuine threat.
Let's just pick up on something our correspondent in Iran was talking about. I wonder to what extent do the attacks on civilian infrastructure amount to war crimes?
Well, the Geneva Convention is very clear on this, so is the Rome Statute. This is tantamount to collective punishment, essentially. The rules of engagement in war are quite clear. You have to attack counterforce targets, so these are military installations or even command and control and political targets. Those are all within the rules of engagement. But of course, this administration of the United States doesn't really care about rules, doesn't really care about international law. And so I think for them, it's really immaterial. They're trying to exert maximum punishment on the Iranian regime, and in doing so, they're willing actually to also exert maximum punishment on the Iranian people.